What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Let's jump straight into it. There are whispers in the hobby of things taking a slight retrace, a downturn, and I think when multiple people are talking about this, when people are talking about vintage going downhill, when people are talking about alt arts going downhill, large market cap losses, sealed products becoming unsustainable in terms of their prices, I think everybody is starting to think the same thing. The last video I did, I was talking about how everything kind of seemed like the sky was the limit. It just seems like prices continue to go up. And I was even saying that for me, seeing that all of my auctions, seeing that every single thing that I put on eBay essentially that would go up for auction, I would receive bids for, people would buy, and that's not always the case. People leave things on eBay, people go to sell things and they sit, and that hasn't been the case for me. I've been seeing a lot of things sell, and it almost seems a little too good to be true. So I've been very skeptical throughout a lot of these large rises in card prices. And I think recently I just said, you know what? I think things are just going to keep on moving. It's an amazing time to be in the hobby. I should just be extremely bullish because you know what? That's what everybody else is right now. Everyone is extremely bullish and there's a major pack mentality. Everyone is saying things are going to happen. Prices will continue to rise. So prices will continue to rise. Someone left a great comment on the last video that it was really more of like, this is a big self-fulfilling prophecy going on in this hobby right now. And I kind of want to talk about that because there are so many different angles and perspectives to it. But my response, right? I'm taking in information, I'm watching content, and my response to that is really, okay, if everyone is saying that things are going really well, but things are also set to decline at some point, then wouldn't it be a good time to sell? So I've taken it upon myself to list a ton of stuff up for auction, as well as more stuff that will be coming. I barely have any time with work and spending time with my family. I am trying to carve out as much time as I can to do things like listing stuff and making videos, but it does get hard. But I was able to carve out some time to list up a bunch of stuff, and there is so much more to list. For the first time ever, guys, I think, on this channel, I am beginning to sell. We are looking at houses. We are hoping to rent this house out and move into another house. This is a very large financial endeavor. The bar is doing increasingly well, but that's also unfortunate because it means that I am taking on way more responsibility. I am there way more. I am doing inventory way more. I am staying way later than I was previously. For the first time ever, there are nights where I'm staying at the bar till like 3 a.m., which is really not normal for me. But business is increasing, improving, and so that's great. But on the other end of things, I see Pokemon and I see all of this money wrapped up in things that I've had just sitting here. And I'm thinking maybe it's a good time to unload some of this stuff. And I'm wondering if other people will share that same sentiment and feel that, okay, prices are kind of at all-time highs right now. They are peaking. Prices for a lot of alt arts are coming down, which is great to see. It's awesome to see that. I think in the long run, we're all suspecting that prices will continue to rise. Okay, then there's the whole argument of vintage and modern, and vintage prices are crashing, and there's so much more value and growth in modern. And there's so many, I'm not trying to get into that argument of vintage versus modern, but I feel that vintage is a lot older. The cards are priced a lot harder. They're harder to find. People might not care as much about rarity, but the reality is that getting in bed with vintage grails in comparison to today's grails is a completely different ball game. Okay, you have to have serious capital to get in bed with the vintage grails of the past. So it doesn't make much sense to get into vintage stuff. I completely understand. Modern is way more affordable. One of the greatest modern cards of all time, and I've got mine right here, which, guys, I have also put this up for sale. I've been tempted to put my Umbreon up for sale as well, but I got in on that card at a pretty decent price at $500. So I think I'm just gonna hold on to that one. That one did 10, but my Latios GX tag team, and I do plan on getting this card again, but it does seem like a good time to put this card up on the market. I don't know why it won't. It's having such a hard time focusing in on this. But here we go, my Latios GX tag team. I finally put this one up on the market, and mainly because, one, I would like a 10, but also I think prices are really high right now, and if they do retrace a little bit, I might actually be playing this out very nicely, where this card sells into some of the hype right now, and maybe I can roll it into a more affordable 10. We're seeing some of the auction prices. There was an auction for a PSA 10 that went down to like $2,000 recently, which is a really good price in my opinion for a PSA 10. This is one of the greatest alt arts of all time, in my opinion. Sun and Moon has since kind of been forgotten a little bit, but it's still on my radar. I'm still watching. I'm still waiting. The same thing with some of the Sword and Shield alt arts. And I'm glad that I've waited, because now it seems like people are singing the same song, the same tune. It seems like a lot of people are thinking that Sword and Shield alt arts are about to retrace a little bit. Now that the focus has really shifted towards Scarlet and Violet stuff, it seems like it's a good time to keep your eye on Sword and Shield and Sun and Moon, which is what I intend on doing. But in the meantime, trying to figure out what I should do in the short term, and it does seem like the market is very strong right now. It seems like a lot of people are coming into the hobby right now. It's going to take a while to get back to those pandemic highs, which I think when we're always looking at graphs on YouTube. People are always posting graphs in their videos, and it shows this, this crazy spike, come pandemic time and COVID era, shows this crazy spike. And you know what? That's just not really a part of the real graph, okay? We're not seeing spikes like that again for a very long time. The pandemic was a very specific event and situation which influenced a lot of people being stuck at home, making content, diddling their fingers, and buying Pokemon cards, especially. I was watching Rob Burns' video. He's talking about, and I rarely mention other content creators, but occasionally they have a nugget of good information. And he mentioned something that I've never heard anybody mention, which is that the Google search term for Pokemon cards went up 4x during 2019-2020. So there's way more people searching about this hobby than there has been lately. And I think that it's going to be tough to get back to those all-time highs. But at the same time, right now, as I said in the other video, it seems like everything in Pokemon seems to be rising in price. We are all, at this point, I think multiple of us at this point are hoping for a retrace or reprints or some chance to get cards at a more affordable price. So for me right now, I feel like it's probably a good time to sell. If you've been wondering, is now a good time to sell my stuff and maybe recoup some of that money and maybe get in slightly lower? It's never really good to time the market for so many reasons, but just like the stock market, the market can be irrational longer than you can remain solvent. So if you make some mistakes now and you sell some stuff and it continues to rise in price, you might be kicking yourself. But for me personally, there are other things that I might want to focus and put my equity towards, and that would be buying another home for my family. And so right now I'm thinking, okay, if I'm selling stuff and rolling it into something else, is right now a good time to sell this stuff? And I think it is. So you're going to see a lot of bulk that I'm listing. You're going to see a lot of random cards I'm listing. You're going to see a lot of multiples of cards that I'm listing. All of these promos and sealed cards that came and ETBs and so forth. I was holding on to a lot of this stuff, whereas now I'm pretty much pivoting towards selling a lot of it. You'll see probably booster boxes, specialty boxes going up for sale. I think a lot of this stuff would be good to cash out now. And get some of that equity back. And I think a lot of people are feeling the same. When multiple people are talking about, with thousands of views, people watching their videos, being influenced, when people think the prices are falling on stuff, they're going to sell stuff. And there's people saying that vintage is falling, and there's people saying that modern is going to fall. People speculating that we're going to see a 20-30% retrace on modern alt arts. And if that is the case, then this is probably a good time to consider selling some of this stuff and taking these all-time highs. I think especially for the people that have been big into the sealed booster box investing world, I think that it's a great time to sell this stuff. You guys are about to see me listing my battle styles. I was going to wait for at least like 200 a box, But again, I was saying that at $100 a box, it seemed like a stupid, easy play for me to make. The set was 3 years old. It had released in 2021. It's now 2024. Really, it's halfway, more than halfway beyond 2024. Let's see, we've got September, October, November, December. Yes, we are halfway through 2024 right now, which makes Battle Styles pretty old. But when Battle Styles was sitting at $100 a box, I wasn't saying that all of you should buy into Battle Styles or invest in Battle Styles. I simply said, this is what I'm doing right now. This is one of the plays I'm making right now, is buying a lot of Battle Styles. I ended up buying like 7 or 8 grand worth of Battle Styles, and that ended up really doing well. I think one of the best parts about investing or buying and trying to flip some of this stuff, or even do long-term holds, which I'm sure a lot of Battle Styles I'll end up riding into the sunset beyond $200 a box. But I think one of the best parts about buying, investing, sitting on sealed products is buying when there's going to be inherent growth on the horizon. Steve, somebody that I had a stream with, Nostalgianomics, a long time ago, one point he mentioned that has stuck with me ever since that stream was that one of the best things you can do is buy stuff right before it's going to move, right when that growth is going to appear instantaneously. And that's exactly what happened with Battle Styles. I bought into it, and then pretty much instantaneously, overnight, seemingly, after a week or 2 weeks, and a lot of people saw this growth with Lost Origin, Brilliant Stars, Fusion Strike. Once those sets, Astral Radiance, once those sets went out of stock on Pokémon Center, that's kind of what I'm talking about. If you can time these buys properly and buy them right before they go out of stock, then you're crushing it. In my case, it wasn't out of stock on Pokémon Center. It was just on eBay, and the prices looked good on eBay, but I didn't see a lot of options for cases below 600, and I kind of thought, okay, if I can buy a majority of cases at $600 a pop, how long until these start to move in price? And they moved a lot sooner than I expected. Anyways, all of this to say that I'll probably be putting a lot of stuff up for sale because the prices seem pretty good right now, and we might see a retrace in the future. Either way, my goals are changing, and so that has somewhat to do with these actions, but it's just a reminder, if you have other goals or other priorities or things that you want to shift your money into, no, I'm not selling my first edition base set stuff. No, I'm not selling my crystals. No, I'm not selling my gold stars. No, I'm not selling my shinings, although I may trade those at a show or something for another card that I really want. But my point is, I'm hanging on to stuff that I love most. All of my vintage binders that I have in my closet, all of my modern binders that I have over here on the floor, all of that stuff I'm planning on keeping. It's not going anywhere. My theme deck collection I'm planning on keeping. But everything that I have doubles of, extras of, extra cards laying around, everything, my main focus will be to clear a lot of that stuff out, to clear out space, and to get some of that money coming back in. And guys, vintage is definitely not dead at all. I see vintage binder lots, vintage bulk lots. There are so many listings with very basic cards, right? Very basic cards that don't actually have that much value, pretty commonplace for the most part. Random hollows and reverses. People have these binder listings on eBay, and they're fetching hundreds of dollars. There's the one strategy that I think I should try is literally just putting cards into binder sleeves, because there's something about binder sleeves. I feel like when people are doing auctions or buying stuff and it's in binders and it's up for auction, it creates this it's competitive because it's an auction, but also because it's in binder sleeves, people immediately assume like, oh, this was part of a collection. I'm buying someone's collection. There's going to be value here. But a lot of the auctions that I'm seeing on eBay for these like binder collections and these binder pages full of random cards, there's not a lot of value there. There was one listing that I saw which was just like illustrations, not even alt arts, no alt arts. There's like one alt art. It was like an alt art Beedrill, but it was like alt art Beedrill, a bunch of random rainbows, a bunch of random full arts, a bunch of random illustrations, and then hollows and reverses and vintage commons kind of thrown into the mix. It was a weird binder, but it was like going over $2,500, and I looked through it hard. I looked at all the cards, and I just could not add up even half of that value in my head. So I think right now we're kind of at a peak in this hobby. We're seeing all-time highs, and you know, like I said in the last video, we may see prices continue to rise on a lot of this stuff, guys. Prices might not fall like I think they will. Prices might not retrace a little bit, but if they do, could be a really good time to sell. Additionally, for those of you that are waiting on buying alt arts at the right price, if you wait a little bit longer, you might be rewarded with the prices that you really want. I know I'm waiting right now. We've had a lot of influence. Rob also did a great job pointing out, he pointed out, you know, just different clips of different content creators and influences that we have in this hobby, pointing out very specific cards that they were either chasing, pulling, buying, see value in. The same thing with sealed sets. Once that hype and that FOMO dies down a little bit, that's when those prices could become more realistic, and we might see, you know, one thing, again, Rob Burns, he made such a great video. He made such a great video recently. Another great thing he pointed out was, and guys, I rarely do this. I rarely talk about other content creators, but it was a very good video. He deserves mention. He deserves that credit. But one thing that we have forgotten was I want to say the great alt art crash, even though it seemed like it just went by like that and then it was over, it was done. But there was a period where alt arts were dumping. Alt arts were dumping. No one was touching alt arts. People felt very self-conscious, very bad about their alt art decisions. People were buying at all-time highs. People were buying PSA 10s, and they got burned. Even today, with the prices where they're at, people still got burned on what they paid for some of their alt arts, and the absolute peak of alt art prices. And, you know, we saw those prices really come down in a big way. A lot of content creators were talking about alt arts, you know, falling. And I think that that's a normal thing for cards that are printed in the billions, for Pokemon to be speeding up the printers more than ever. I would expect that alt arts would be abundant and plentiful and that prices would be kind of stagnant for a while. That makes sense. Why would it be that vintage took all that time to appreciate, but modern is a totally different playing field? People are going for condition rarity. They want the pristines. They want the black labels. Phillips Collectibles, also another great channel. I give a lot of credit to this channel. He has grown a ton. I've been watching this channel from a distance. It's grown a ton. But he was talking about, you know, vintage falling and people being more interested in modern. And while I enjoyed the video, there were some things that I would contest with. And the thing is, I think, like I said before, modern is a lot more affordable. So people are going to get into modern as opposed to vintage. It's a lot more affordable. You can buy some really amazing artworks for, you know, a couple $100s, whereas in vintage, there are grail cards and PSA 9 that you can't get for a couple $100s. So there's a big price difference there and a price barrier that I feel like keeps a lot of collectors out and keeps them going towards modern. But does that mean that these prices in modern are going to stay where they're at? They could very well fall like they have in the past. Maybe we get a 20 to 30% dump on a lot of alt arts. Just alt arts are where the primary focus of the collector is right now. It's on alt arts or sealed booster boxes. The one thing with the sealed boxes is that because there is a finite amount of sealed boxes and they're going to continue to go down, I think that, you know, being a sealed collector is a good thing in this hobby right now. I think whether you sell now or continue to hold and wait for higher prices, you'll be fine. But when it comes to alt arts, it's a totally different playing field, okay? People are opening boxes every day and more alt arts are flowing, releasing onto the market, which would lower, in theory, their price, okay? As the population of PSA 10 cards goes up, those prices should come down. And I'm not just saying like the biggest, hottest cards specifically. I'm still talking about cards that have gone up that are kind of wild, like in the Scarlet and Violet era, the Tyranitar and the Raichu and the Altaria and the Magikarp. And I'm sure there's several others I can name. We've got Twilight Masquerade with the Perrin and the Carmine and the Greninja EX, okay? These prices, guys, maybe Pokemon has it figured out. Maybe they're releasing less product onto the market. Maybe they're printing slower. Maybe they're slowing things down. They're smart. They know what they're doing. Maybe they're slowing things down, okay, to account for the change in sentiment, to account for the change in the market. Who knows? Maybe they're just cooling down right now to speed things up in the next era. We don't know what's going on. No one can claim to say that they know exactly what's going on right now with Pokemon. But I think that a lot of these cards that have been hyped up, especially after they've released, cards drop in value, but I think a lot of these prices are going to come down. Twilight Masquerade, these prices are kind of crazy, being several $100s right after a set release. Even for the cards that I've mentioned, these illustration cards, the Magic card being pretty much the #1 card that's an illustration. Groudon now, you can throw Groudon in there. Groudon has been rising a lot. Groudon from Paradox Rift, I still really want that card. But a lot of these cards, even the ones that have these really tough gem mint rates, they are still going to go up in PSA 10 eventually. Unless PSA is controlling those pops, they're going to go up eventually. More and more people are going to open up Paldea Evolve. More and more people are going to get that Magikarp. They're going to send it in. It's going to get a 10 eventually. And I'm pretty sure that those 10 prices are going to come down eventually, no matter how tough it is to grade that card. And I think this can be said for a lot of alt arts, a lot of illustrations. While I do think in the long run, similar to vintage, all the prices are going to continue to rise, which is kind of why I made my last video talking about, you know, things just seem too good to be true in Pokemon right now, and maybe they are. Maybe this is a super stable hobby. It's one of the safest trading card hobbies to be invested in. I know we just saw One Piece products are dumping, and we're seeing reprints there. And people thought that that was never going to happen in One Piece, but it's happened. But Pokemon, on the other hand, is a very, very safe space. It's a safe haven. This is the reason why I have pretty much pumped the brakes on investing, buying into any other TCGs, even ones that I like, such as Yu-Gi-Oh! Yu-Gi-Oh! Is one of my favorite TCGs of all time, but you haven't seen me buying up Yu-Gi-Oh! The way I buy up Pokemon. There's a reason for that, because I can enjoy Pokemon and I can enjoy knowing that my money is pretty safe going into Pokemon. I know that if there's an emergency, if I need to sell my entire collection and put that towards something else like a home down payment, if something like that happens, then I know that I'm safe with my money, right? A lot of the gold stars that I've bought, a lot of the crystals that I've bought, a lot of those cards, first edition base, a lot of those cards have gone up in value. There is a retrace on some of these vintage cards. First edition base specifically, I think, is a really good time to buy first edition base. Seriously. Other than the Charizard first edition auction we saw recently, which Pokemon Classics, I believe, Pokemon Classics. He also made a video on auctions. Great video, by the way. Credit where credit is due. That was an awesome video. He talked about a lot of the auctions that I talked about a couple days ago in my auction video, but he covered some extra stuff as well. But it was really validating to see him covering some of the same auctions that I covered, such as the Gold Star Charizard, the first edition base Charizard, which first edition base Charizard is always going to be something that we cover, because I think no matter how old and outdated and irrelevant vintage becomes, it is the root of the hobby. It is where it begins. It is the origin of the hobby. No matter how popular alt arts and modern becomes, I think there's always going to be a market. There are always going to be collectors that want vintage, myself included. No matter how much I love modern and I can appreciate the arts, I will always revert back to my vintage ways. I just can't help it. It's ingrained. It's like almost a part of my collecting DNA. I love vintage stuff specifically. But anyways, guys, I think a lot of this stuff is going to keep trending up in the long term. I think most of us believe that. I don't think any of us fully believe that Pokemon is going to have a complete crash. I don't think any of us believe that at this point. It's been years. Unless we've just had a really nice bull ride and it's going to start all trending down, I see nothing but bullish future for this hobby, a bullish future. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought. I was trying to think of one of my last points. Anyways, guys, watch for your alt arts. Don't believe that vintage is really going downhill, because it's not. It's steadily risen for a long time, and it's going to continue to probably. anything can happen in the hobby, but again, we've got years now of a track record to watch. We did have a lot of stimulus money. We did have the pandemic. We had all these factors that helped pump a lot of money into this hobby. Could we ever reverse that growth? I don't know. Am I worried about it? No, I'm not worried about it. I have a great full-time job. I'm having fun doing YouTube on the side. If things go down, if they go up, it's all the same to me. I'm watching, I'm waiting, I'm updating you guys on it. We're talking about it. It becomes news either way, and it becomes a learning experience anyway. If I fail in selling stuff and find that it's worth more down the road, which I have already done in this hobby a good couple times, then okay, it's a learning lesson. But if I'm right and stuff does drop and I sold a lot of my stuff, I'm gonna feel really, really good about that. And so that's kind of one of the main takeaways, I guess you could say, in this video. Probably should have chopped it up into different sections, but you guys know I always do my videos kind of in a rant style. And there's one key takeaway though, it would be, if you have a lot of stuff, if your collection is overflowing right now, like mine is, and you feel like it's time to recoup some of that equity, it's time to sell some of that stuff back, now is not a bad time to do that, okay? And then for all of the sealed collectors and investors and buyers and sellers out there, again, kind of feel the same way, kind of feel like, you know, reprints are possible. They're unlikely, but they're possible. You know, even for me selling battle styles, I wanted to wait for a lot higher of a return, but I'm thinking, you know what? Right now, taking a profit, not being greedy, it's not a bad time. Put that product back out there so someone else can enjoy it more than I will. You know, you never know. Anyways, guys, that's pretty much all I've got for you. Let me know how you're feeling in the hobby. Like I said, a lot of whispers, a lot of talk about alt arts coming down in price. I think one of the main things is just that many of us just can't afford or can't justify buying these cards at hundreds of dollars. Blaziken VMAX from Chilling Reign hitting $500 when I remember just like yesterday, it was a $300 or $400 card. Does that seem sustainable? Does it seem organic to see all that growth in a short period of time? I don't know. Again, Chilling Reign booster boxes, while I don't believe those are worth what they're worth right now, those have been opened, right? They've gone up in value from attrition, from all the box breaks and streams and pack openings, and people continuing to look for that Blaziken like Cool Trainer Ryan did. So, you know, it's tough to say that those prices are ever going to come down or retrace, even though I badly want them to, because that product is becoming lesser and lesser. Meanwhile, the alt arts should be getting open. We should see more of them coming onto the market. I will say Sword and Shield, Sun and Moon, people aren't opening that stuff nearly as much as they're opening Scarlet and Violet. So maybe the pops of PSA 10 cards aren't going to go up the way that I think they're going to go up, or speculate. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how all of this plays out down the road. Just kind of sharing my thoughts on all of it. I think the hobby is going to do well in the long term regardless. Again, I can't reiterate that enough, but there are certain times where I feel like now's the time to not be greedy. Take the money, sell some stuff, get acclimated to eBay or Mercari or selling on other websites, whatnot, whatever it is that you do that you're trying to make money, Facebook Marketplace, doing private deals. Get used to unloading this stuff, because right now I'm in a period where I'm like, I don't even know where to start. I'm not sure if I should start with vintage bulk that I have to sell. I don't know if I should make binder pages to sell a lot of stuff. I don't know if I should be focused on what slabs do I not need, what can I let go of and get rid of right now and get some equity back. I'm not even sure where to start, and that's why it's important right now. I think while things are still on the up and up for the most part, people might be talking about prices coming down, or hoping prices come down, or hoping that we get a retrace, or even there's people out there hoping, like I do sometimes, that we get a complete crash in the alt art market. You know, there's no guarantee of any of this stuff, that any of that stuff is going to happen, but while prices are hot right now, while prices are still up right now, it might be a good time to try and liquidate some stuff. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys. play it safe out there, do what you feel is best, but ultimately know what your budget is, what your finances are, and take it seriously, because you want to be in this hobby for the long haul. And this is something that I constantly get myself in a pickle with, where I'm overbuying, I'm over collecting, and then I'm having to budget really, really hardcore for the next couple of weeks, like I did after I bought the first edition Charizard, because I bought a $19,000 Pokemon card. So I have to really budget and watch my finances for the next following weeks. Anyways, I'm sure we all deal with stuff like that, but right now just seems like a lot of value in the hobby. Seems like might be a good time to sell some stuff. Anyways, you guys check out my eBay. I'm gonna be listing a lot of stuff in the coming days. Hopefully, if I have more time after work, I can list some more stuff. But yeah, these alt art prices, it's very likely that they're going to come down. I don't know for sure. Nobody knows for sure. It's only pure speculation. One sealed investment, before I end this video, one sealed investment, actually, this is a play. And I see Ketchum Collectibles making this play. I see him making this play, Dan from Ketchum Collectibles. This is a good play in my opinion. He recently, and hopefully he would be okay with me talking about this, but he put his money where his mouth is. He spent easily over $25,000 on Japanese Pokemon 151, right? Japanese 151, I think of retail in Japan, $40 a box. $50 a box was, I think, his price. I think he got from a seller named Retrospec, and I was looking at that seller as well for buying into Japanese 151. I only bought one measly box from a TikTok shop at like $85, which I thought was a really good deal at the time, and I was kind of excited about, because if I'm gonna buy Japanese, I wanted it to be 151. I really like 151. It's one of the few sets that I would actually be happy about buying it in Japanese. But $50 a box, hundreds of boxes. Ketchum said his position was like 500 boxes right now. These are the plays right now in the hobby. Like, that is one of the best plays I've seen in this hobby right now. $50 a box. I just remember when Japanese 151 boxes were just soaring, okay? Everyone thought they were going to the moon. People were paying hundreds of dollars for Japanese 151 boxes. I think at one point maybe $200 or $300 for that box, even though I think it was at a median price around 100 to 150 for where most people got in. But $50 a box, Japanese 151 is going to go up eventually. Japanese quality of cards is amazing. That was just one big play that I've seen recently, which is one of the coolest plays that I've seen recently. My hat's off to you, Ketchum. That's a big ball move right there. Anyways, peace out, guys. Have a great one. Let me know what you think about the hobby, where we're at right now, what we're thinking, what we're feeling.